Hi class, I'll be showing you how to use GeoGebra for the purposes of the transformation geometry assessment. GeoGebra is a tool which allows you to create shapes and transform them, which is everything that we need for this. The link is on the Google website and the Google site, so use that to get to this page here. You will have to log in. I strongly recommend that you log in by pressing the via Google button and using your school account. Once you've logged in, you can then click on Start Calculator to get into the Geogebra Calculator. So here's a lot. Let's just kind of look through each element one piece at a time. So here's the graph. Here's where you're going to see all of your shapes and transformations. On the left, we've got three tabs: Algebra, Tools, and Table. We're never going to use the Table tab, so you can ignore it. We'll come back to the Algebra tab soon. Here's where you're going to see everything that's going on. So first, click on the Tools tab, and we will see there's a bunch of different tools, right? Let's look at some basic ones. For example, at the very top, you've got your Move tool, which allows you to move the screen. You can also zoom in and out. You can press these buttons on the right to zoom in and out, or use a wheel if you have it. And here we'll start with the point tool. The point tool allows us to place a point on the graph. So here I placed a point A and click somewhere else and place point B, and maybe we'll chuck one down here for point C. When you're done and you want to go back to move, you can click on move, but notice that there's a little mouse icon on the bottom which allows you to click on move as well. Right? So if we click back on algebra, we can now see that those 3 points have been listed in this list. So point A here is x equals 1 and y equals 2, which identifies this coordinate right there. Point B is x equals 4 and y equals 1. And point C is x equals 3 and y equals -2. So these are the coordinates which allows you to identify which point they are. Of course, you can click on these up here to find them on your graph as well. See how they're highlighted. We can also edit a point. So once we have a point we like, we can just move them around if we want to. Or we can even click on here to be really precise and say, I really want this to be at 1.25. And you press enter and it'll move it up by 0.25 that way. So you can be as precise as you want by editing elements here. If we head back to the tools, the other tool that we'll find quite useful, if we scroll down a little bit on the transform, on the lines, we can find some different ways to make lines. So a segment, for example, is a line that starts and ends at 2 points. So it starts at A and ends at B. While the line tool is a line that goes all the way across your page that will go through those 2 points. You can also create a segment and create your 2 points that way. So you don't have to use a point that already exists, but you can. And if we head back to the algebra tool, we can now see that it's created these lines, and you can see here F, this segment F is a segment between A and B. Line G, and you can see here it's labeled G, is a line going through C and B. And over here, segment here is going through D and E. And a quick note is if I move one of the points, like point B, it'll move the lines and segments with it, because the segment and line instructions are go from A to B. So if B has changed, the line will change with it to match. Lastly, what about shapes? To be able to find shapes, we will need to scroll all the way back down on the tools to find the More button. And now we've got even more tools available. And if we scroll around, we will find this area here called Polygons. So Polygon, the left one, allows us to make any shape we want by creating dots. And if we want to finish the shape, just go back to the first dot you started, and there we go. A shape is done, right? And if we go back to algebra, we'll see that creating a shape required it to make, here we got the points F, G, and H, and the shape had to first of all make those 3 segments, the 3 walls of the shape, and then color it in with the polygon section, right? So we can see here how the shape was created that way. Of course, you can also make shapes using lines and and points that already existed as well, if you like. So that's the polygon tool. You can use any shape you want. You can experiment with some other polygon tools to see how they work. And the other tool you should probably know about are circles. So sometimes you want to make a circle. So for example, let's make a circle with a center. How do we do that? Well, we can click on the circle with the center button, click on where our center wants to be, and then we can expand that to however big we want the circle to be. And you've got some other tools here like semicircle, circular arc. One thing to note is when you click on a tool, a little pop-up will show up at the bottom saying what you have to do. Select 2 endpoints. So select 1 endpoint, select 2 endpoint, and that's how you create it. So all tools here will tell you what you have to do to make this tool work. And you should just experiment a little bit. One last tool that I didn't mention, but it's with the line section once you've expanded it out, is this vector tool. So what vector does, it's kind of like a segment. So it's a segment, except that it's a segment with, it's a segment with an arrow. So you can see here, this segment has an arrow to it, and this it's called a vector. It's essentially giving you a direction. This is going to be quite important later on, but for all intents and purposes, it's a segment with an arrow next to it. So those are the main tools of GeoGebra. You should just experiment how to use it. The final step that I want to talk about, one more thing, by the way, you may have noticed me doing that, but you can also, once you've got a point, you can hide the point, for example, this point G, by clicking the little circle in the algebra tool. So maybe you don't want to actually see the points, you can hide those points by clicking these circles. The points still exist, you just can't see or interact with them. So the final step is how do we save our work? It's really important that you understand how to save your work because people have lost stuff, even assessment stuff, because they didn't understand this well. On the top left, you can click on this triple line and you can see the save button. So if you click on save, it'll ask us to save this work. Give it a nice title, something that'll make sense to you. You can leave it shared or private. I would just recommend keeping it shared because then you can send it to your assessor as well. And you click on the save button. And you'll see it's saving and eventually saving successfully. Awesome. So how about opening it up? Where can we find it? So first of all, let's clear our work. So if we click on here, we can clear all, and this just refreshes the page. So then we can click again here and we find open. If we click on open, you'll find a bunch of other resources, but more importantly, you'll find your resource. So this is the one that we worked on just now. And if we click on that, it'll open it up. What's really important to know is GeoGebra does not save automatically. So if I add some extra lines or points here, and if I were to then open again, it'll give you a pop-up to save because it'll be like, hey, you didn't save, and they'll just remove it. So you must save manually. If I want to save some work, if I had some more extra points that I really like, then I have to go back and click save. It'll already put the title for you, so all you have to do then is press save and it'll update that work. And that's it. That's everything for GeoGebra. So go for now. So go through the video, experiment yourself, see what's available, make sure you know how to use the tools, and make sure you know how to save your work.